Welcome to Arts and Music. I'm your host, Victor Janflone. Today, I'm pleased to bring you Jim Dofka. Welcome, Jim Dofka. When did the metal bug bite you, man?
And I don't know. I think I can't even go back that far. First, see Jimi Hendrix burning a guitar, and you go, man, fire's cool, you know? Mm-hmm. Guitar's cool. Then you see Kiss, and it's all over from there, you know?
So when did you start playing?
I started playing piano early on, and then I converted everything I was kind of learning from piano to guitar probably around 11 years old, you know. Mm-hmm. And I started playing in clubs when I was 12 and 13. So, you know, that's when it all kind of went to the music side, you know. I was in a band called Rage, not the European Rage, that later turned out to be the band Screamer. Mm-hmm. And by the time it turned into being the band Screamer, we were playing like 25 dates a month. You know, we did that for like 4 years straight, no less than 25 shows a month. But we did, you know, cover songs, and we did some originals. But so I remember being in my senior year in high school, and we'd be playing a gig in like Rochester, and I'd get dropped off at school, you know, right out of the equipment van, go to school, and I went a half a day by my senior year, you know, and I got all my credits because I knew I was going to be traveling with the band and or whatnot. So I was the young kid like that. I was looking up to these older dudes who I was glad to be around because they were such phenomenal musicians, you know. But yeah, it started way back when I was a kid in high school doing the touring and everything.
So after that, what came next? After Screamer?
Well, actually, back to Screamer for a second. It was, we started recording some demos and things, and, you know, I would come up to, like, Pittsburgh to go to Ides Records and places like that, and I started picking up all the European metal magazines. And in the back, you would see a review of, like, a band that wasn't signed, that wasn't on a big record label, and they would say, send your demo here. I thought, wow, I'll send our stuff to Germany or whatever. And then you'd find another magazine, and then you would start getting these reviews. And then it kind of escalated, you know. It was really different back then without internet or whatever. And you would get in the mail, like they would send you the magazine that you were reviewed in or featured in. And then there'd be all these little pieces of paper, like little flyers for another magazine and other bands, and that's how they would kind of spread
like
their...
a metal network or
something? It was a metal underground network, yeah, it was really cool. And then you would see a lot of the same bands after a while, and that just kind of escalated. And then, you know, we were featured in magazines in Japan and in France and South America. And then after that, the record companies started soliciting, you know, recordings from us. So we started sending the Screamer stuff to some of those labels ourselves without an entertainment lawyer or anything like that. Luckily, we didn't sign anything too bad, but...
Which does happen.
Yeah, oh yeah. And as that went down, we did get some offers, and, you know, we couldn't sign a few of them because of some of the members in the band. There were some issues or whatnot, so I wanted to take this further because I thought, wow, there's actually people interested in the music that I'm writing, you know. And with networking with bands, playing through like Washington D.C. and Virginia and, you know, the East Coast, you know, I just came across a lot of bands, and a few bands gave me some offers to join. And then there was this one band called Mistress, and I ended up joining that band, and we had a similar thing. One of the record companies was Black Dragon Records in Paris, France, and we sent over 20 songs, and the label liked them, and they gave us a list. They said, well, the first 8 songs you have recorded could be part of the record, and we'll add these other 5 songs. Well, it turned out the 5 songs that the label picked were songs that I wrote, and Mistress, the other guys in the band, didn't write. So they weren't having it. They didn't want to sign the record deal because
you were the writer.
I was the writer, and I said, well, why don't we do this, and you guys can write the whole next record, you know? Or, you know, I was only in the band 6 months, and we had a pretty cool deal. and they refused to. So then the label said, Jim, I've been trying to sign you in Screamer. I wanted to sign you in Brick Mistress. Why don't you call the band Dofka and just do a Dofka record? So that's what ended up happening there. And I didn't really have a band at that time called Dofka. I just used a few of those songs that we were offered in Brick Mistress, and then I added, a few new tunes and found another singer, and we did the first Dofka record on Black Dragon Records, and that came out in the fall of 1990. It was called
Toxic Wasteland. You had, you got a few new members in the band?
Yeah. Well, after that, after that record came out, I played all the instruments, and Scott Edgell did all the vocals on that. He was also a friend from Wheeling, West Virginia that I went to school with. And then we had the tour, and I didn't have a band. So I ended up grabbing the drummer from Brick Mistress, who is, his name's Steve Moore. They call him the Mad Drummer.
I've seen that video.
Yeah,
he is the Mad Drummer.
Yeah, he is a madman. He was always real showy, spinning his sticks and doing all these crazy moves. And but he was a massive player besides being a great entertainer. Yeah. And I got a bass player friend of mine, Brian Mihalovich, and then unfortunately Scott Edgell that sang on the record, he just didn't want to tour or anything, so I got another guy named Chet Miller, and we toured the East Coast a good bit, and did a few other recordings that we just released independently that you could only buy at the shows. They were kind of exclusive things. And then, a few members started changing. We ended up changing another drummer, and then the typical band thing happens, where you're just juggling members. So we lost a little bit of that core, and just started, I kind of put the band on hiatus, I think, at that point, and started to do some other bands. I did the band Psycho Scream with Pittsburgh native Tim Amar. Are you familiar with Tim?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say Tim,
Yeah. So Tim was in Triple X at the time, and who was a very successful Pittsburgh band, and I was a fan of. I love Freddie Nelson's guitar playing. He was always like he reminded me of those LA guys like Warren DeMartini and George Lynch, but you'd go to Pittsburgh and see that brand of player when you would see Triple X. So, from that point on, we went with Psycho Scream. We got a few record deal offers with that too, and we just did independent releases and just didn't sign any of the deals. And then eventually that kind of fizzled out, and then I just moved on and decided instead of trying to do just one project, I'm kind of scattered out right now, doing as many things as I possibly can, just keeping busy in the music world,
So when you're playing, how many guitars do you usually use live?
I usually
do you drop tune on stuff.
I do, but
guitar.
I'm not. Most guitar players are like gear nuts, and I'm not. I'm old school. I just like to have a guitar. My pedal board consists of like a tuner, an EQ, and a gate. I plug right in. I try to just get a good sounding guitar with a good pickup, with a healthy sounding guitar amp, and not a bunch of effects and stuff. So it's kind of like what you hear is what you get, rather than building the sound with a bunch of effects and just process things. So when I go out, I usually take maybe 2 or 3 guitars, and it varies every year. It's like one year I still have some of my old classic guitars, an old Gibson Victory I used to use all the time. But a lot of my guitars now are parts guitars where I just get a Warmoth body with a Warmoth neck. I like the Gargantua with jumbo frets, and I like the stainless steel frets because I wear through the nickel frets. About 8 months into it, I got to get them recrowned. So the stainless seemed to last me forever. So, a lot of people come into my studio and they go, none of your guitars have a name on the headstock, and they're not really any cheaper to do these Frankenstein guitars. You just get what you want,
Right.
If you want a mahogany body with a Duncan pickup and maple neck from Warmoth, it's still going to cost you as much as a USA Strat, but you're getting like the neck radius and the fret size you want, and et cetera. But I can't really seem to find that one guitar from any name company that I can go in and just pick up and go, this melts in my hand.
It's great, yeah. Like, that's what's good with drummers. At least they can adjust their drum set.
Oh yeah. We're kind of just stuck.
And I never thought. I've never thought about that till you just said that about a guitar. Mm-hmm. That it's kind of like being a drummer and adjusting your drum set, having that guitar be set to where you flow. It just.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can raise and lower the strings and tighten the neck.
I'm saying as far as like the sizes and the different, like the neck size and then this.
Yeah, it is what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you can angle a tom or cymbals or whatever, or adjust tension on your drum pedal or whatever, so we're kind of stuck with that. And, you know, I got to be careful how I say that too, because I can pick up certain guitars and they kind of melt in my hands, maybe for the shredding stuff, but if I want to do some of the country, you know, chicken picking stuff or the slide guitar stuff, I have to have the strings a lot higher, and then I can't play the Yngwie and Paul Gilbert stuff on that kind of a setup, you know.
So what Jim is saying right now, Jim is telling you out there, he will not shut down endorsements, so he will take endorsements. Okay, so just make that clear.
Yes. Well, I'll say two things with endorsements. One, I do have a carving guitar that I pretty much just pull out of the case and play. I don't have to do any kind of setup on it. They're no longer Carvin anymore, they're Kiesel. And I will say safely that I have endorsed Seymour Duncan pickups, and pretty much all my guitars have Seymour Duncan pickups. So
Seymour Duncan.
Seymour Duncan.
There you go. So I have a question from my friend from Tokyo, Japan, Aki. He said, he asked, how did you hook up with Jeff Martin?
Jeff Martin from Racer X and Surgical Steel and Badlands. Yeah, what a great guy.
Which I think you're going to do more work, I think.
Yes, we're doing a record right now. And I can talk about that in a second. But meeting Jeff, my buddy, the mad drummer, Steve Moore, wanted to do a video for The Little Drummer Boy. He wanted me to do like a metalized version.
Is that when that started?
Yeah.
That video of him going crazy?
Yeah.
You know, Elf and all that.
Well, because he had the Drummer at the Wrong Gig video, and it had like 37 million views. And we're like, Steve, man, you better capitalize on this. Right, and he's had a lot of great things happen because of that video.
It's a great video.
It is great. It is a great video. Yeah, and I have to say on that too, it's because of his talent. He just needed that outlet for people to see him. He deserves all that credit because of his talent, not because of just one video. That video just exposed him to the world. But anyhow, he said, I got this idea, and we didn't have much time. He wanted to release it for Christmas. So he said, can you hook me up with a metal version of The Little Drummer Boy? So I did a quick demo of it, and he said, well, who should we get to sing and play bass? I'm like, well, we got about 5 days to get this done, you know. So my buddy, his name's Rev Jones, fantastic bass player. He plays with Leslie West. He plays with Michael Schenker. He's in the band Steelheart. Just a beast of a bass player. And I reached out to him. I said, hey, you want to play on this? And he said, yeah, man, I've been wanting to record something with you for a long time. And he said, who's singing on it? I said, we don't know yet. And he said, well, how's Jeff Martin sound to you? I said, I love Jeff Martin's vocals. How do we get a hold of him? And he said, well, I played on his solo record, and he played drums and Michael Schenker with me. And he reached out to him, and Jeff said, absolutely, I want to do it. So that's how, you know, the relationship with Jeff Martin and Rev Jones came together. But the project I'm doing with Jeff Martin now, it's actually Jeff and Rev. Jeff's known as the singer from Racer X, I think primarily, and also he played drums in Badlands with Jakey Lee. And this project, Jeff's playing drums on. So Rev's singing and playing bass, and I'm playing guitar. It's a three-piece, and it's.
So he's primarily a drummer.
Well, I think he's primarily just a great musician.
Yeah,
you know?
all-around guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's like got
kind of like you.
Yeah,
same thing.
I'm not the drummer like him or anything, but I can fake it in the studio. Right. You know, but yeah, he's just a beast of a drummer, like a John Bonham kind of guy. He uses the great big, 26-inch kick drum, and it's all about tone, So I'm real excited for the world to hear this. Rev wrote all the songs, we kind of threw our own flavor in, but man, I can't wait to unleash this one.
So this past year, give us a rundown, kind of what you've been up to. I mean,
well, as far as recordings, I'm always recording. I'm playing on a lot of CDs for other people. I did a record for Lori Morgan. I've been working on this Rev Jones CD this past year, and I'm doing a new Dofka CD, and I'm working on a Leather Leone CD right now. So in 2017, the Rev Jones CD will be out, the new Dofka CD will be out, and we'll start recording the new Leather Leone CD, who I've also toured with in the spring. So that was another project too, and if you're not familiar with Leather, she was the lead vocalist for the band Chastain. That's another thing I want to say too, is I'm really blessed and grateful to be able to work with some of these people, because they're all heroes of mine that, you know, I never thought I would even meet, let alone work with, like Jeff Martin. And, you know, I knew Rev from way back in the day. And Leather, she was always in my top 5 favorite vocalists, you know. And then here, so many years later, I'm working with them. But, you know, she kind of quit when Chastain became defunct. She just got out of the scene for unknown reasons, and now this is kind of her comeback. She just did a couple of Chastain records, and David doesn't want to tour, so that's why she's doing her solo thing again. And we do some Chastain songs, some things off of her solo record, and now she's going to be writing some new music. But yeah, man, I'm really blessed to be able to work with some of these people that, you know, I just looked up to and I was influenced. I learned how to play, you know, by listening to their material, you know.
It's amazing, isn't it? The way life can be, and just you never know who you'll be sitting next to in a studio or something. That's just happened to me before. With
sitting next to Victor Janflone.
Greg Ken one time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I just told him, I said, Greg, this is so weird, you know, here we are working with these remixes for Jeopardy and the breakup song. There's some release for Indonesia or something. Mm-hmm. And I said, I remember playing this stuff in a band in Pennsylvania at clubs.
Yeah.
Well, this was popular, you know. Here I am sitting next to you now.
Isn't it a great feeling, you know?
So weird, man.
It's weird, but it's a great feeling, and especially when you meet them and they're great people.
They're good people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that
makes it.
That's so much, so important. That makes so much of a difference, you know.
Yeah, it makes you feel good here.
Right, right on.
I've met some when it doesn't turn out like that. You're like,
yeah, I can count on one hand how many I've met like that, but I've been blessed, you know.
So, what was this, Necrophagia?
Necrophagia.
Yes.
Yeah, they're a legendary metal band. The singer's name is Killjoy. And again, I met Killjoy probably in 1989. He had one of the fanzines I was talking about that you would send the tapes and stuff to. And I was primarily focusing on the death metal thing, but for some reason he liked the Screamer demo, which was more of a melodic, kind of sounded like the new wave of British metal kind of stuff that we were doing in Screamer. And we just became friends and stayed in touch, and over the years, you know, it might be a year I don't hear from him, and then I'd get a note from him or whatever, but they're legendary. They bill themselves as gore metal, you know, and it's pretty over the top. So Phil Anselmo from Pantera, the singer, played on a few of their CDs. He played guitar. He had to use an alias name because he was still under contract with Pantera. So when you see the pictures, he's got this hoodie on, but you can still see his hair hanging until it's Phil. But that was another thing. I think that came out last year. I did a guest solo on the record. Killjoy asked if I'd be interested in playing. I heard the tune. I thought it was great, and I thought, sure, you know, help out a metal brother. We've been in touch for so long, and maybe we'll do something again in the future.
Yeah. So here's one of your. This is the last CD.
Yeah, that's the last Dofka CD.
That's Dofka CD. Yeah.
Humanity Bleak.
So remember, go find it, pick it up. Yes. Purchase metal now.
Yes. Don't steal it. That's what's ruining the whole music scene now. Is like, I like this album. Click, steal. Support your bands.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sweden Rock Festival. Mm-hmm. Worked there 3 years on the rock stage. Each year we had Motorhead, play, and that was something else. And so it's a great festival, which hopefully you can get there.
Yeah, I'd love to get there
because it's massive.
Yeah.
And Europe is just still heavy into it, man.
Sure.
You know, it's nothing like seeing the crowd, and you see all the different flags out there waving, and you know they're they're into it, man.
Yeah. I see the videos, you know, for like Sweden. There's so many metal bands in Sweden too. You know, I mean, it's Gothenburg is like the metal capital of the world. They always say, you know. The European thing's a lot different too. It's a lot of festivals, not as many of the like just single bands touring. And just like you said, you look out, how many people are at Sweden Rock? It's
thousands and
thousands,
thousands, man. I mean, it's
for
days.
Days.
It's a day's
camping,
festival.
you know, just for the metal and to hang out and mingle with people that, you know, love the music. It's just an awesome feeling. So,
A mutual friend of ours, Chris Center, just passed away. You know, I'm pretty sure he went to school with my brother, so it's like losing two people at the same age within 6 months or so of each other.
yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah. Chris did a lot of work with you, right?
He sure did. Behind the scenes a lot, and he was our live sound tech. He was doing sound that night. You know, he loved to do that. He loved to sing, and we're trying to make a positive out of it. You know, with my former singer that's on this Dofka CD, Andrew Dacagna. He said something, and I'll probably misspeak his words, but he said something about you know, how fragile life is, and he said if all of us would live our life like Chris Zenner, it would just be a better place, because he was always just happy and smiling and joking around, and you know, he embraced every breath. And sometimes I think we lose that. I have to say, you know, you were friends with Chris too, and you lost your brother. Chris,
Same age, you know. It's just weird.
Yeah, that young.
43, man.
Yep, 43, too young. There's still
insane.
Still a life to live. You know, you're not planning on going. You know, so it's a lesson and or a reminder. You know, as we start hitting, you know, the age of 40 or more, and people start getting sick, you got to just really embrace every breath, treat people good, and it'll come back to you.
I think that'll do it for our time together for this episode.
Thanks, Victor. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad to be here.
Dude, I'm so glad you showed up, man. I'm same here. Thank you so much, man.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching Arts and Music, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at artsandmusicpgh@yahoo.com. And until next time, peace.